Hey there, it's Clay with modernlove.life, and in this video we're going to be talking about your ex's 3 hidden fears that they will never tell you. This is something that a lot of people don't actually realize, is that your ex, yeah, they have their own fears, they have their own concerns, they have all of this sort of stuff. I mean, yeah, of course, intellectually we understand that, yeah, we're all humans, we're not making anyone into objects and all that stuff. But so many times after a breakup, people look so much to their ex for validation or approval that they forget that their ex isn't just this sort of arbiter of your fate and destiny as, a couple, but that they're actually someone who is going through a rich and complex emotional experience that includes uncertainty, fear, insecurity themselves, all sorts of things. In this video, we're going to be explaining some of your ex's hidden fears. Now, the first one is that your ex is probably afraid on some level that the only reason you're interacting with them or contacting them is because they are afraid that you just want to get back together. And that is the main reason that you are talking to them. That's the main reason that you are keeping in touch with them. That's the main reason that you're, wanting to spend time with them, is that you just want to get back together. And of course, I think that most people watching videos like these do want to get back together with their exes. But there is an important distinction here, and that is that you can't want to get back together with your ex at the expense of understanding them and at the expense of really hearing and listening to what their concerns, what their fears, what their challenges, where they're at emotionally, and all of that stuff might be. So, I think most of us have gone through this period after a breakup where we did the whole begging and pleading thing and all of that. And that is kind of the extreme example of trying to get back together with your ex and ignoring where they're at emotionally, their concerns, fears, and meeting them where they're at emotionally. So, you're essentially just kind of like using your ex as a means to an end to get into a relationship. And you're not saying like, hey, you're right, there are some challenges that are going on, and I wouldn't blame you if you felt scared. I wouldn't blame you if you felt frustrated. I wouldn't blame you if you felt upset over things that happened, or whatever the case might be, right? Instead, we're just saying like, hey, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I promise it's going to change, and all of that stuff. And that is a very big emotional disconnect from where they're at, and so they're going to naturally be kind of concerned that you're not interested in where they are. You're not taking a realistic consideration into their emotional world, their needs, their concerns, their fears, their challenges, and all of that. And if they just think that you have this single-minded agenda that you're just barreling towards, and you're not open to listening to them, hearing them out, connecting with them, considering their concerns, challenges, emotions, and everything like that, they are of course going to want to distance themselves from you. The same way that you might try to distance yourself from a door-to-door vacuum cleaner salesman or something like that. Unless you legitimately want to buy a vacuum and it's just like, oh, serendipitously, you knocked on the door right now. Chances are you're going to be very hesitant about talking to the guy, as he's like wheeling up the vacuum cleaner. Hey there, you got some carpets that need cleaning or something like that. You're like, hey, I get it. You got to earn a living, but I'm just trying to relax this afternoon. Go to the next house, please. And that's kind of the same energy that, your ex might have towards you if they believe that you have this sole intention of just wanting to get back together with them and not actually interested in where they're at emotionally. Now, of course, it might just start off with this sort of casual, like, hey, I'm not interested in a vacuum cleaner, check out my neighbor or something like that. But again, the more aggressive you are about moving forward with the single-minded objective of getting back together, the more they're going to need to push back to the point where it's like, you might say to the vacuum cleaner salesman, no, dude, get out of here. I'm not buying a vacuum cleaner. Get out. Or even more to an extreme point, you might threaten to call the police or file a restraining order or contact the company that he works for or something to get him terminated or something like that. That's what happens when you escalate things and you're not willing to actually stop and realize the effect that you're having on someone else and that the concerns that they're having. And obviously, I think we all understand this in a sense where it comes to like, door-to-door salesmen. However, we may not necessarily realize that we could be unintentionally having this sort of effect when we are communicating with our ex. And so that is a major fear that your ex has. And of course, the main way to get around this is to shift from trying to force the relationship to happen to actually connecting on an emotional level, okay? Actually just meeting them where they're at, actually exploring and talking about and listening to their concerns rather than trying to, bulldoze through and go towards your goal at the expense of actually listening to them and taking into consideration what their concerns might be. The second thing that your ex may fear is that they are actually making a huge mistake with breaking up with you. Breakups are generally not an easy decision for people to make. They're a difficult decision for people to make, and it's usually something that people have to warm up to over a period of time. Relationships have ups and downs, but if there's a lot more down than up, then people start to think about things. They start to weigh things and say, okay, is it worth it for me to stay in this relationship, or would it be better if I left the relationship? And when the scales start to tilt to where it's, okay, I'd probably be better off if I was not in this relationship, that's when somebody actually makes the choice to break up. However, even after that, your ex may have some doubts about whether or not this breakup is something that they truly want to do. The chances are you've probably been in a relationship for at least a little while. It's easy to kind of remember the full spectrum of your time together and say, yeah, we were together for, a couple years, a couple decades, whatever. Is this really something that I'm prepared to pull the plug on? And even after you make that first move of saying like, hey, let's break up, or let's get divorced, or let's get separated, or whatever, there is still going to be this like little inkling in the back of your mind. It's like, oh, I don't know, was it really that bad? I don't know, maybe we could make it work. I remember how great things were at the beginning. Like, is it somehow possible to get back to those days? And so there are going to be a lot of doubts in your ex's mind, especially in the early stages of this. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's also the law of consistency to work against as well too, but there is going to be that doubt in your ex's mind. And the main thing that you want to do here, if you are coming across me or these videos early on in your breakup process, is to keep yourself from giving your ex any additional reason to kind of solidify their choice in breaking up with you, okay? Now, I know you might have just come across these videos, months into this, or maybe even a year or more into this, and, maybe so you're like, okay, great, that would have helped me, 6 months ago, but maybe not so much now. Even many months into this, you still want to be careful about what you're doing, and are you kind of hardening their wall or softening their wall, okay? And when you do things such as like the first item we talked about, such as, being overly focused on an agenda and not meeting them where they're at emotionally, you're hardening that wall. Whereas if you're agreeable with them, if you're genuinely concerned about them, if you're willing to actually talk about their challenges, if you're willing to actually give them space if they ask for space or whatever, then you're actually softening that wall, because you're showing up in the relationship probably in a way that most people would consider a mature, totally normal, totally rational sort of way, which is like, hey, you asked for space? Okay, I'll give you some space. Like, you cool if we talk in 2 weeks? Something like that. That's like, they're going to leave a conversation like that thinking, that was really easy. I was working this up in my mind to be so much worse than it was going to be, but it was actually really super easy. Maybe that was the wrong choice. Maybe this person is showing up as very considerate. They're showing up as very calm and relaxed. Maybe they weren't so bad after all. And so you want to be thinking about these things as you're moving forward. By the way, if you're liking this video, please help me out by hitting that thumbs up button. It does help us out with YouTube. Also, go ahead down below, leave a comment, leave 2 comments, leave 3 comments, whatever, however many comments you feel like making. It helps us out. Subscribe to the channel as well too. But with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about point number 3, which is that your ex is afraid that people will think less of them if they were to actually get back together with you. Okay, so your ex has doubts about the two of you breaking up. But after they do the breakup and after they tell their friends and their family and all of that stuff, they're going to be concerned about what people will think if they do get back together with you. And so they're probably going to, this is where the law of consistency comes into play. So the law of consistency says, okay, if they act in a certain way, they're probably going to continue to act in ways that support that certain way of behavior. So if they break up with you, they're probably going to act in ways that support the fact that they broke up with you by insisting that they stay broken up with you, or things like that. And that's not to say that this can't be overcome. It definitely can be overcome, but just know that this is an obstacle. This is something that you are going to be up against. And one of the ways that this shows up is they're going to think like, okay, yeah, maybe I made a mistake, and maybe you're really cool after all, and maybe you are considerate. However, I still have to be careful about all of this, because what are my friends going to say when they find out that we're getting back together? What are my friends going to say if they find out we're dating again? Are they going to say, oh, hey, after you talked about how Kevin was so terrible all this time, you had to break up with him, like now you're dating him again? What's going on with that? Your ex is going to be concerned about these sorts of things. It's not to say you can't get past them. And the way to get past this particular block is to make it known that as the two of you are getting closer, you probably don't want to do this like early on in the process, but as the two of you are getting closer, make it known that the two of you are united in this endeavor. The two of you can handle this together. They're not in this alone. It's not just them against the world trying to justify their actions to their parents, to their family, to their friends, to anyone else in their lives. But it's actually the two of you together standing side by side saying like, hey, yeah, we had a rough patch there, but we figured it out. We decided we're going to make it work. We're going to do it better. And that can help them to get past these sorts of concerns. That can help them to get past this concern that like, hey, people are going to think less of me for getting back together with you. The truth is that pretty much every couple that has stood, a test of time, a good stretch of time, it's not like they've just been together for like 6 months or a year or something, but if they've been together for like 5, 10, 20, 30 years or something, there's probably been at some point in their relationship at least one very challenging episode or two or situation or something that has really put some strain on their marriage or their relationship. And they've been able to pull through that, okay? Now, of course, not every couple is going to pull through it. Not every couple should pull through it. But the ones that have stood the test of time have probably had some sort of challenge along the way. And, there are a lot of relationships that end in breakup that don't get back together. But there are a lot of relationships that hit on a rough time and they figure it out. They work through it and they get back together. And the thing is that once you and your ex are back together, once other people are able to see that the two of you are happy, that, hey, this isn't the same, relationship that didn't work for whatever reason in the past, they're going to suddenly flip and they're going to be very supportive of the two of you. They're going to be encouraging you. They're going to say, hey, you did it. You were able to overcome the odds, make it work, and be able to get through that rough patch. Like these are solid relationship skills. I'm rooting for you to actually, get married and make it work and all that stuff. Don't worry so much about that. The way you want to do this is by positioning you and your partner together as a united front to handle the family concerns, the friend concerns, and all of that stuff. And of course, if you do want some help with all of this, this is all of these things are related to communication. Please feel free to check out our course called Effortless Connection. That's over at modernlove.life, not .com, but .life/EC. So it's modernlove.life/E as in effortless, C as in connection. I'm trying to make this really easy for you here. That's where you go. Check it out. If it seems right for you, feel free to sign up. If it's not right for you, that's totally okay too. I'm not going to twist your arm about it. But thanks so much once again for watching this video. If you did like it, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time. Please take care.